Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. If you'd like to know more about my knitwear designs, please check in the description below. There you will find a link to my Ravelry pattern page where you can see all of the patterns I have available for you to get a knit up for yourself. Also in the description below, you will find a link to a couple of social media sites. One is the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group. We'd love to have you come over and join us so we can continue the conversations we start here on the YouTube channel. And also is my Patreon page. Patreon is a platform to connect creators with the people who love their work. It is a way, it's kind of like a tip jar. If you'd like to go over and check it out, if you like my videos, you might consider supporting me a little bit. I have a change of scenery. I decided it might be a little fun for y'all for me to get out of my room and just change things up a little tiny bit. If y'all like it, let me know in the comments below and I might start recording a few videos here. I am in A Good Yarn. I work in this yarn store on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and it is a lot of fun because I get to meet knitters and I'm learning a lot more about what I need to be sharing and helping with, because it's very easy to assume that people know how to do things because, you know, it's like you forget along the way how you had to learn, which is why I'm making the video today. And what this video is about reading ball bands on yarn, because your ball band is very important and it can be a little confusing. It has some mysterious symbols. You're not really sure what all this information is. So I collected a few, some yarn from around here so you can take a look at this. This is by no means like definitive because there's gonna be a lot of variation in bands. There's not a lot of standardization, but I want to show you what to look for. And hopefully if you are a beginning knitter or crocheter, this might help you a little bit. I have some yarns here. I went on the shelf to look at them, and we are going to take a look at reading the labels. Let's start with this. This is a very widely available, and so everything's really beautifully printed. There are three major things that you want to look for on your label. First thing is your fiber content. This says right at the front, but you should be able to look around and it should say elsewhere. There we go. This is 100% superwash wool. That's really important. They're the care instructions. We'll address that in a minute. And then the other two things that are super, super important are your yarn weight. Right here, this is 100 grams, 3.5 ounces. 100 grams, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's probably the most common yarn weight you're gonna find out there, as far as not yarn weight, but the put up, how much weight you get. So 100 grams, and then this is 219 yards in 200 meters in 100 grams. So that is telling you a lot. We'll get to. Also, we've got this is on some yarns, not all yarns. This is the Craft Yarn Council yarn weight sizing system, that little 4. And so what does that tell you? I have a little piece of paper here. You can go, I will put a link to it below on the Craft Yarn Council sizing, and you can get a page like this, just the weight system for you to print out for yourself. And what this is it breaks down and tells you what these numbers go to in the common terminology when you talk about sport, sock, etc. So this is a 4. So 4 means it falls worsted, Afghan, Aran. Now the thing about this system is that is a wide range. There's a substantial difference between a worsted weight and an Aran weight yarn. And so if you can see here, recommended needle size in metric is 4.5, 5.5. In US, it's 7 to 9. So that's a fairly substantial range. So this kind of makes it easier, but also it doesn't have the finesse that a lot of patterns call for. So this is a really useful thing that you should probably go check out and have in your back pocket. Let's go back here. So this is a 4, and then you're going to look around and it should have a gauge for you. And so that's the crochet gauge, which doesn't tell me much, but crocheters would look there. Tells you what hook, and if you're making a 4" / 10" swatch, how many stitches and rows you're going to get. Here, you're looking at, they give you 2 different gauges. One is with a size 7 needle, and one is with a size 8 needle, 5mm, 4.5mm respectively. And what this is telling you is on a size 7 needle, you should get about 20 stitches to 4" 10". And on a slightly larger needle, you're going to get slightly fewer stitches. And you can also get your row gauge. So this is telling you a general gauge. I don't particularly pay attention to that information except for to try to determine what weight my yarn is, because it's more important to look at what gauge your pattern calls for. So in looking at this, since it calls for a 7 or an 8, that is, if you know that worsted weight yarn is typically knit on a 7 or an 8, and then looking at 219 yards to 100 grams in wool, that is what's giving you the clues that this is a worsted weight yarn, which narrows it down from the 4. Now, here is care instructions, and they should always tell you how to care for your yarn. Does this have the fancy symbols? This one does not. So let's look at another one. So this is Germantown from Kelborn Woolens, and right there on the front it's telling you 100% North American wool. Since it doesn't say superwash, assume that it's not superwash. 220 yards, 200 in 100 grams. So this again, as we just learned, is telling us this is probably a worsted weight yarn. And we're going to look, this is saying hand wash, dry flat, low iron, do not tumble dry. Now they have it spelled out like that, but a lot of times you're just going to get these. You're going to get these little pictures. And again, I will put a link to, I'll try to find a copy of this for you and link to it. Knowing these, and it tells you, you have these little pictographs that tell you how to care for your yarn, and you're frequently going to see those on labels. But going back to here, right up front, on the front of this, it told us the three things. What kind of fiber, how many yards, what's the weight. But let's look at our gauge. So again, this is coming in as a 4, a medium. We know because it's this that's worsted. Let's look at, this is saying US 6 to 9. So at 9, it's going to be a very loose gauge. At 6, it's going to be a tight gauge. So this is giving you a range. Again, matching it to your pattern is what's important. And then here's the final. This is a non-American. This is, Rowan is from the UK. And again, looking at the front, let's get it close enough. Oh, focus please. Come on. Extra fine merino in cashmere. So that is telling you your fiber content. And now this is a 25-gram ball. So that is a very difference. This is like 1/4 of the amount. And this one has our little pictures. So this is telling us that there is 96 yards or 88 meters in your 25 grams. Now to compare this to one of these, right? You need to compare apples to apples. So we need to get up to 100 grams. So this is, let's just say right now, about 100 yards. So this would be about 400 yards in 100 grams. So that actually puts it in a different weight category, but let's see what they're calling for here. Your gauge, a size 6 US. This is where it gets dangerous because you can't compare the weight of this to the weight of this because this has cashmere in it and cashmere is a lot lighter. So you just kind of have to look at this, and so they're saying a US size 6 needle. So let's go back to our handy dandy cheat sheet, which tells us, here we go. Nope. Recommended needle size. So a 6 is here. So this is probably a DK weight or a light worsted, because that's where it's falling in their recommended needle size. And then here, tells you specifically in several different languages that it's 80% wool and 20% cashmere. I mean, that's a lot of different languages. And it tells you it's made in Italy. This is a very important thing, your lot number, especially in this kind of yarn. Actually, I'm going to show you another one. But yeah, and so this is giving us 22 stitches to 4 to 10 centimeters. So again, you need to look at your yarn content, your weight, your yardage, and then recommended needle sizes. Are you focusing? Woo! So let's go back. You've got a dye lot. Dye lot is important in these kinds of things. When you have yarns that have dye lots, you want to make sure that these numbers match. This is the color, but you need to make sure that this number matches if you're buying multiple balls of yarns. Let's see if this one, here we go. This one has a dye lot. So there's the lot number. So if you're going to buy multiple balls, you need to know that lot number. Now, let's look at an indie dyed yarn. Indie dyed yarns are usually going to have less information on them because they're independent. So this is telling you the yarn name, and then this is specifically telling you it's a 4-ply DK weight yarn. It's not, most indie dyed yarns are not going to have the little Craft Yarn Council symbol on it. This is telling you it's 100% superwash merino and 225 yards in 100 grams. So that's a DK weight. And it's saying recommend alternating skeins, hand dyed yarn. So that's what you got. It's a superwash yarn, and you got the yarn name. And that is the kind of information. But again, it has the top things you need to know. Your fiber content, your yardage, and your weight. They're not recommending a needle, and they're not giving you gauge. So you just need to know that it's a DK. And then here is another indie dyed yarn. This is Magpie. Now this one has a little bit more information on it than the other indie one did. It tells you where it's made, tells you that it's machine washable, though hand washing is recommended. So you can machine wash it if you really want to. And then let's look. We've got the name, Solstice DK, so it's telling you the weight right there in the name. This is 50% domestic superwash, SW stands for superwash merino, 25% domestic cotton, and 25% silk. So this one has a different kind of blend, 300 yards in 100 grams. Now, that you're getting a lot more yardage, and they're still calling it a DK, but it has different fibers, so it weighs different. So it's, you know what? It's just one of those things that it's why it's so important to swatch. Let's look at this and compare it to this other DK weight. If you look at them together, you know they're roughly, this one has more, the pink one has more poof. This one has a tighter ply, but they're roughly the same. So that is the general gist of how to read a yarn label. You need to know it's upside down, woohoo! You need to know your fiber content, your yardage, and the weight of your skein, and that information will all help you determine your gauge, what needle size you need to use, because even if it doesn't say the needle size, you can determine. Let's go back to this. This didn't give us a needle gauge, but we're looking at DK weight. So we go back to here, DK, you're looking at a 3.75, 4.5 millimeter, 5 to 7 needle. So this is a very, very useful thing to have because it helps a lot. I hope that if this was something you needed more information on, that cleared it up a bit. If I missed things, if there's some things that are still confusing, please let me know in the comments below and I will try my best to answer. And if there's enough, maybe we can even do a follow-up video. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, click that like button. And if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.